rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon you. Alhamdulillah, here is another edition of our dua and da'wah. Du'a'un wa da'wah. It's a dua, supplication, and da'wah, invitation to you and to all of us to follow a specific teaching from the Prophet ﷺ embedded in the dua he taught us. Sometimes we will use dua from the Quran, sometimes dua from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. One of the wonderful, amazing du'as we usually repeat after Salat at the end, Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. Oh Allah, help me to make mention of you more, to make more dhikr, to be able to show my gratitude to you, wa shukrika, to be grateful to you, to show more gratitude to you, wa husni ibadatik, and to worship you in the best manner, the best way, the best method. This dua is actually a gift to us. It came actually to a Sahabi Jalil, a wonderful companion of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the very close friends and companions of the Prophet ﷺ, Sayyidina Mu'ad ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu wa ardah. And Mu'ad ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu tells us in this hadith related by Imam Abu Dawud and Nasa'i and others, he said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we read in Arabic, أخذ بيده صلى الله عليه وسلم وقال يا معاذ. So Mu'ad is saying that Rasul took his hand. This is called special attention. Mu'ad was very close to Rasulullah, and he was one of the Huffaz al-Quran, one of his close students. He was very close to the Prophet, and the Prophet really, in many instances, he gave him some things special, such as sending him as a governor in Yemen with Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. He sent him 2 different missions during his life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Mu'ad ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu is a Sahabi who reported many traditions, many hadiths. And he said that the Rasul took his hand. So imagine you just prayed. I want you to put yourself in the place of Sayyidina Mu'ad ibn Jabal. Just imagine you are Mu'ad ibn Jabal for a moment. And the Nabi Sallallahu holds your hand. Just imagine when you finish praying, the Imam or your teacher or your father or your uncle or someone that you respect in society comes and takes you by the hand. Say, come, I want you. Me, this is like tartib khas, khususi tartib. It's a special treatment. Not that you're privileged over others, but you're given because you are a person who will really treasure that gift, and most likely you will deliver it. And indeed, Sayyidina Mu'ad bin Jabal, may Allah be pleased with him, did deliver that message to us. And that's why I'm here to tell you, and I'm sure many of you heard this and you will say it to others. So he said, he took me by the hand, أخذ بيده وقال يا معاذ. Now listen what Rasul said to Mu'ad. يا معاذ إني أحبك والله إني لأحبك. Oh Mu'ad, I love you. يا معاذ والله إني لأحبك. The hadith reports wallahi. The Prophet ﷺ wouldn't say wallahi unless to confirm something. But this is also an invitation to you and me, that if we do what we're about to discuss, which is the dua that he taught Mu'ad, then Nabi Sallallahu is telling me, Wallahi inni la uhibbuk. Just remember, I said, put yourself in the person of Mu'ad. And the fact that you earn that status to be given this treasure to deliver. And Mu'ad was a great muballigh. He delivered a lot of messages of the Prophet ﷺ, including the Holy Quran, which is the message of Allah. He took him by the hand, أخذ بيده وقال والله إني لا أحبك. يا معاذ والله إني لا أحبك. Oh Mu'ad, by Allah, I love you. I truly love you. Inni. This is like stressing and making sure that the person understands. Then he repeats it again. Wallahi inni la uhibbuk. Then he said, فقال أوصيك. It's like you say in English, therefore I would like to tell you something. I would like to admonish you, to advise you, to tell you something. And of course, wasiyah from the Prophet ﷺ, and this is in conversation between the Rasul ﷺ and specifically Mu'adh ibn Jabal. But I am here in this context, I am Mu'adh, you are Mu'adh. So let's say Rasul is telling you, my dear brother, my dear sister, my dear son, my dear daughter, whoever you know is watching this message, and Nabi is saying, Wallahi inni la uhibbuk. أوصيك يا معاذ, I advise you معاذ, لا تدعن في دبر كل صلاة تقول, do not leave the following words to say after salat. Now some say dubur salat could be before saying salamu alaikum, and many say no, it's actually as soon as you say salamu alaikum, regardless, you can add in even before or after, that's fine, but just don't forget to say it. And then he said, Allahumma, the dua, Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. Oh Allah, help me to make mention of you more. Meaning dhikr. What is dhikr, my brothers and sisters? And it's dhikr, let's pronounce it properly. Dhikr, not zikr. It's a dal with nuqta. Dal mu'jama, we call it. Dal. And we have it in English. Whether, this, that. Dhikrika, al-dhikr, dhikrullah. And Nabi Sallallahu says in another hadith related by Tirmidhi, and it's another hadith that deserves khutbah by itself, a lecture. الدنيا ملعونة وملعون ما فيها إلا من ثلاث, عالم ومتعلم, ذكر الله وما والاه, وعالم أو متعلم. Three things in dunya. Dunya is really not worth it except three things in it. Dhikrullah wa ma wala. Dhikrullah and everything that is connected. You know, when you look at the ocean, it is dhikrullah and you remember Allah. You look at a baby being born, or an animal, a cow giving birth to a calf, or an elephant. It makes you shiver how Allah created this, or just a bird coming out of an egg. Anything that reminds you of the creation of Allah and the work of Allah, looking at the bees and the ants and the fish and the animal world and vegetation and many things, you just say subhanallah. It reminds you of Allah. That is dhikr. That's why nadaru fil bahri dhikr. Looking at the ocean by itself is dhikr. To look at these things. Dhikrullahi wa ma wala. Or dhikr, which is saying subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu akbar 100 times a day, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-ali azim. Saying subhanallah wa bihamdihi subhanallah azim, as the Prophet taught us, if you say it, and there's nobody like you on the day of judgment except someone who did like you or more. If you say subhanallah wa bihamdihi subhanallah azim before ishraq, before sunrise, or before maghrib, as Allah says, وَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ قَبْلَ طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ وقبل غروبها, to say subhanallah bihamdih subhanallah azim, just la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. All this, as the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, لا يزال لسانك رطبا من ذكر الله. Man came to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, there's too many teachings about Islam. إن شرائع الإسلام قد كثرت علي فباب واحد جامع نتمسك به. Just show me one thing I could do and I will do it well. And enough. He said, لا يزال لسانك رطبا من ذكر الله. Keep your tongue soft with dhikrullah, moisturized with dhikrullah. Keep it steady. Make dhikr. This lisan dhakir and shakir by saying hamd is amazing. Dhikrullah. Wala dhikrullahi akbar, as Allah says in the Holy Quran. So my brother, my sister, my son, my daughter, just remember this beautiful dua. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrik. Dhikrullah. وعالم ومتعلم. Either you're seeking knowledge, or you're teaching. خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. The best amongst you, those who learn the Quran, and of course sciences of the Quran, tafsir al-Quran, tradition that explains the Quran, and you teach it to others. Allah rewards you. That's why dunya is a waste of time. But these three things, learning or teaching or making dhikrullah, is good. That's why Rasul said to that man, keep yourself making dhikr. If you don't want to do too many things, dhikrullah is enough for you. Indeed, dhikr ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innu al-qulub. Nothing will give you tranquility. No money, no wealth, nothing, no fame, nothing except dhikrullah will give you something in your heart that people are looking for. Peace, peace, peace. That's actually the source of happiness. And this is the reason why you're asking Allah to help you. To help you, because you need Allah to help you to become dhakir. In another way, we can say, Allahumma rzuqni lisanan dhakira. Give me a tongue that loves to make dhikr of you. وَقَلْبًا لِسَانًا ذَاكِرًا وَشَاكِرًا وَقَلْبًا خَاشِعًا, and give me khushu' in my heart. وَنَفْسًا قَانِعًا, and a nafs, that is content. And you heard this dua many times. And this is why these are key du'as. Key du'as, an invitation, da'wah to khair. Khair. As Allah says, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. Let us call others to this khair, this mirath, this treasure, wealth left by Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is the ilm al-nafi' that will benefit you, that the prophets did not leave. لم يورثوا دينارا إن الأنبياء لم يورثوا دينارا ولا درهما ولكن ورثوا العلم. They do not leave behind them, dinar and dirham and wealth. They leave knowledge. And that knowledge that is beneficial, including this. Oh Allah, Allahumma inni ala dhikrik wa shukrik, and help me to be grateful to you to as much. And gratitude is two ways, verbal and of course actual, with the tongue and with the action. So how do I show gratitude to Allah for the wealth He gave me? Giving charity, giving sadaqah. How do I show Allah gratitude for the health He gave me? By physically helping others. It's not only saying Alhamdulillah, but when you help, you're strong and you give from the strength, and you are wealthy and you give from your wealth, and you're knowledgeable and you teach and give from it. This is a way you are showing gratitude to Allah. وَحُسْنِ عِبَادَتِكَ, and to worship you in the best way. Because you can worship Allah, but worship Allah, scholars explain this, حُسْنِ عِبَادَةِ أي تعبده على علم وبنية خالصة. To worship Allah with knowledge and good intention. These two are extremely important. Why? You worship Allah على علم, with knowledge. عالم واحد أشد على الشيطان من ألف عابد. عالم, one knowledgeable person, is stronger on shaitan and heavier on shaitan than 1,000 worshippers. That's why it's better to do something with knowledge. Sayyidina al-Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah says, تعلم مسألة في الدين خير من ألف نافلة. Learning one matter of religion and learning it well is better than 1,000 nafila. Can you imagine? Knowledge is power. But imagine you add the ilm wa ibadah. But ilm wa ibadah need one more thing. Good intention. No showing off. You're doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the meaning of husn ibadah. So let's repeat dua again. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husn ibadatik. Oh Allah, help me to make more mention of you, more dhikr of you, and also to show gratitude to you, more shukr of you, and also to worship you in the best manner. نفعني الله وإياكم وجعلنا وإياكم من الذاكرين من الشاكرين من العابدين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. حياكم الله إخواني وأخواتي، وأهلا ومرحبا بكم مع حلقة جديدة من تصحيح مفاهيم. ننوه أن هذه الحلقة تأتيكم باللغة العربية، وبعد أقل من ساعة بإذن الله ستأتي باللغة الإنجليزية لنفس المضمون. نبث لكم من شرق كندا عبر تطبيق الموبايل مسلم دو أبليكيشن، وأنا محدثكم أمجد قرشة، الذي أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى لي ولكم التوفيق والسدادة والقبول، اللهم آمين. ومع مفهوم جديد لتصحيح بعض النقاط حوله في برنامجنا الأسبوعي الذي يأتيكم كل يوم اثنين بفضل الله سبحانه وتعالى، تصحيح مفاهيم. قبل يومين أو ثلاثة كنت أنا شخصيا مع مجموعة من الأئمة هنا في شمال أمريكا في كندا والولايات المتحدة على موعد مع اليوم العالمي الذي وضعته الأمم المتحدة لدعم ومؤازرة ونصرة ذوي التحديات الخاصة الحركية والسمعية والبصرية والعقلية والنفسية، أو من قد يستخدم البعض معهم ذوي الإعاقات. فكان الهدف الرئيسي من الحملة هو مخاطبة كثير من البلدان في العالم، وهذا على مستوى عالمي. وجهت لنا رسالة نحن الذين نقوم بدور الإمامة والخطابة والتدريس في شمال أمريكا وفي كندا تخصيصا من بعض المجالس الإسلامية بضرورة توجيه النصح للمراكز والمساجد الإسلامية. وهنا في كندا يوجد حوالي أكثر من 700 مركز ومسجد ومدرسة إسلامية لمحاولة وضع التسهيلات قدر الاستطاعة وتثقيف الناس لحسن التعامل مع من هو قد ابتلي بموضوع نوع من أنواع الإعاقات أو نوع من أنواع التحديات. الأشهر هي الحركية السمعية البصرية، ويدخل فيها أيضا تحديات النفسية والعقلية جزئيا أو ربما كليا. فمن وحي هذه الخطبة، من وحي المعاني التي قمنا بها، أريد أن أوصل الرسائل الأخلاقية التالية لإخواني وأخواتي الذين يشاركوننا هذا البث، وأسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى يجعلني وإياكم سببا في نشر الخير. يا أخوة، طبعا الرسالة الأولى، نحتاج أن نفهم حجم المعاناة الموجودة في العالم لمن هو مبتلى بتحدي أو إعاقة في حياته. طبعا لما نقول إعاقة أو تحدي، يوجد إعاقة حركية أو يوجد تحدي حركي بعض الأحيان. بعض الأحيان الصعوبة تكون في السمع، بعض الأحيان في البصر، بعض الأحيان في النطق، بعض الأحيان بالحركة، بعض الأحيان في الحالة النفسية، وفي أسباب عديدة كثيرة جدا. كي ندرك حجم المعاناة من أصحاب هؤلاء التحديات، نسبتهم في العالم بحسب الأمم المتحدة 15%. تخيلوا، 15%. 15% من عدد سكان العالم. أنا إذا لم أخطئ سكان العالم 7 مليار. 15% عم نحكي على تقريبا يعني قريب المليار، إذا أنا مش غلطان، قريب المليار. فتخيل أنت 1000 مليون شخص عندهم تحديات وإعاقات ما بين سمعي، حركي، بصري، نفسي، عقلي. فالعدد ضخم جدا. هذه واحدة. طبعا في كندا، كون الرسالة وجهت لنا هنا في كندا، في كندا كندا بشكل عام وليس عند المسلمين، عدد الذين يعانون من هذه التحديات والإعاقات 22% من سكان كندا. كندا فيها 36 مليون تقريبا. تخيلوا، خمسهم عندهم هذه الإشكالية. طيب نيجي للمسلمين. بحسب الأمم المتحدة، أعطوا مثال على الباكستان وعلى مصر لندرك حجم من نريد أن نقدم النصيحة الأخلاقية بشأن التعامل معهم وتسهيل حياتهم. الباكستان يوجد فيها 17 مليون صاحب تحدي أو إعاقة حركية سمعية بصرية إلى آخره. مصر على سبيل المثال فيها 7 مليون بحسب أرقام الأمم المتحدة. طبعا الرسالة الثانية، عدد اللي يندرجون تحت هذه الفئات خاصة في العالم الإسلامي يزداد بشكل ملحوظ بسبب، وللأسف أسأل الله أن يغفر لنا ويعفو عنا، يخرجنا مما نحن فيه، أغلب اللاجئين والحروب والدمار والقتل والتشريد والتفجير والذبح والقتل للأسف يحصل في أغلبه في العالم، يحصل في مناطق فيها مسلمون. فحجم الازدياد لمن يعاني من أصحاب التحديات ضخم جدا. على هذه حلو أنه نعرف إحنا ديننا إيش أعطانا رسائل أخلاقية مقابل الأشياء الخاطئة اللي قد نكون قد أصبنا فيها. بعض الدراسات بتشير على أنه في بعض الدول، وهنا نبتدئ الآن بلب الرسائل، بعض الدراسات تشير والأبحاث والمسوحات أنه في بعض الدول الإسلامية لأسباب ثقافية معينة، لأسباب فكرية سياسية ما إلها علاقة بفهم الإسلام، يعتبرون الإعاقة الحركية أو السمعية أو البصرية أو العقلية أو النفسية نوعا من اللعنة أو عقوبة من الله على شيء فعله هذا الإنسان وفعله اللي قبله. يعني إذا انولد وبيعرج مثلا على سبيل المثال، أو إذا انولد وبتأتئ، أو إذا انولد وما بيشوف أو ما بيسمع مباشرة، بعضهم بيقول لك الله بحطش بذمتي، أبصر أبوه شو عمل، أبصر أمه شو عملت، أبصر. أعوذ بالله، هذا خطأ قاتل ينبغي أن يصحح. من كلنا مبتلى، هناك من ابتلي بأشياء مخفية لا نعلمها، وهناك من ابتلي بمعنى اختبر، امتحن، وهذا جزء من امتحانه في هذه الدنيا، أن يكون عنده نقص في شيء معين ويطلب أن يتعامل معه ضمن منهج الله سبحانه وتعالى في البلاء والابتلاء اللي ذكرناه عدة مرات. فالرسالة الأولى: إياك أن تسمح لأي ثقافة أو أي توجيه أن يزرع في داخلك أن المصاب بإعاقة أو تحدي من هذه النوعيات هو هذا بسبب لعنة أو عقوبة والعياذ بالله، إنما هو حصته من البلاء من الله سبحانه وتعالى، وكلنا عندنا حصص مختلفة من البلاء. هذه واحدة. الثانية: يا ترى تصحيح المفاهيم. إسلامنا العظيم لو الوقت يسمح لاستعراض أشياء كثيرة جدا ممكن نأتي بعشرات الحالات، لكن من أعظم الرسائل التي ينبغي أن نتعلم منها درسا كيف تعامل الإسلام، رب الإسلام، كتاب الإسلام، نبي الإسلام مع من أصيب بهذه التحديات أو بعض هذه التحديات. على سبيل المثال، أشهر قصة موجودة عندنا في القرآن الكريم ومذكورة أيضا في السيرة النبوية، عبد الله ابن أم مكتوم الذي كان مصابا بالعمى رضي الله عنه، وكان أحد اثنين عينهما النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لواحدة من أهم شعائر الإسلام اليومية والخطيرة اللي هي الأذان. الأذان هو تذكير وتنبيه وإعلان لدخول وقت الصلاة اللي هي أعظم عبادة عند المسلمين. بلال رضي الله عنه ابن رباح وابن أم مكتوم. ابن أم مكتوم هذا مذكور هو الذي نزل في حقه بدايات سورة عبس وتولى أن جاءه الأعمى وما يدريك لعله يزكى أو يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى إلى آخر الآيات التي تعرفون. تخيلوا القصة كما رويت في السير أن عبد الله ابن أم مكتوم أراد أن يحادث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم، طبعا وكان هو بالإضافة لما ابتلي به من العمى هو يعني من الناس المتواضعين البسيطين، ليس من كبار أهل قريش ولا من زعمائها ولا إلى آخره، بالإضافة للبلاء الذي قدره الله له. فأراد أن يحدث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم، فالنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان محموما مشغولا بدعوة بعض كبار قريش، فاجتهد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فتركه أو لم يعطه الأولوية في الحديث وتوجه أولئك النفر من قريش، اجتهادا منه أن تلك أولوية لعل الله إن مكنه أن يكسب قلوب بعض هؤلاء الناس يعني ويغير به وجه الواقع في نصرة الإسلام كما حصل مع عمر رضي الله عنه ومع حمزة رضي الله عنه إلى آخر الوضع. فنزل العتاب الرباني من الله للنبي لأجل عبد الله بن أم مكتوم، فقال عبس وتولى أن جاءه الأعمى وما يدريك لعله يزكى، فجاءت بمعنى المعاتبة، اترك هؤلاء وأعطي الأولوية لهذا. انظروا، وحي يتلى إلى يوم القيامة في عتاب رب السماوات والأرض لأعظم مخلوق ألا وهو محمد نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم لأجل شخص قد ابتلي بالعمى أراد أن يحادث النبي في بعض شأنه. فكان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كلما رآه يقول مرحبا بمن عاتبني فيه ربي، مرحبا بمن عاتبني فيه ربي. هذا بيعطيك رسالة عظيم نظرة هذا الإسلام لأجل لمن ابتلي بهذا البلاء. طيب، النقطة التي تليها أو الرسالة التي نحب أن نوصلها عندنا طبعا أكثر من خط إنجاز التعبير. عندنا خط التعامل الشخصي يا أحب أخو في الدقائق المتبقية، خط الشخصي في الألفاظ، في المناداة، في النظرة، وعندنا موضوع التسهيلات كمساجد، كمراكز، كمرافق. طبعا أنا أعلم أنا خطابي أنا الآن لا أتحدث في الأمم المتحدة ولست سياسيا ولست صاحب سلطة ولا صاحب تأثير إعلامي ضخم حتى أخاطب الحكومة. لو كنت أخاطب الآن رؤساء دول أو رؤساء وزراء أو أخاطب وزراء أو أصحاب قرار، كنت سأتحدث أو مع برلمانيين سأتحدث عن تشريعات وقوانين للتسهيلات في الشوارع وفي الطرق وفي الوظائف وأمور أخيرة. لكن أنا أخاطب الناس العاديين أمثالي، لذلك سأكون منطقيا. أمثالنا يا أحبة على ماذا يعني أو قدرتنا على ماذا؟ قدرتنا بنقول باللهجة العامية على ماذا نمون؟ على من نملك نوعا من التأثير والقدرة، مراكز إسلامية، مساجد، أصحاب، أصدقاء، وعلى أنفسنا وأهلنا في أسلوب التعامل وفتح التسهيلات. مساجد، مراكز إسلامية، تسهيلات في العمل بما تستطيع، أن تجعل الطرق الواسعة، الطرق المؤدية للوصول، أن تضع مصطبة صغيرة جدا بسيطة من الإسمنت، أن تفتح طرقا خاصة، أن تجعل كراسي خاصة، مواقع خاصة، الحمام توسع الباب، الدخول إلى الحمام في مرافق شركتك، مؤسستك، المسجد الذي تتعاملون فيه، إذا كنتم في دولتكم في أماكنكم، من تسمعونني في الغرب، التأثير على مراكز صنع. طبعا في العالم العربي وزارة الأوقاف، لكن إن كنت تسمعني وأنت تعيش في الغرب، إدارات المراكز الإسلامية والمساجد، تسهيلها كي يأتي هؤلاء الناس أصحاب التحديات الحركية والسمعية والبصرية من ناحية الملمس والمشي والوقوف والوضوء والجلوس والحركة، حتى يستمتعوا بالقرب من ربهم وعبادة ربهم. هذه طبعا هيك رسائل سريعة تقاس عليها، ولا أملك القدرة على تغطية كل الموضوع. يأتينا نقطة أخرى في موضوع التعامل يا أحبة، الألفاظ التي، وبقي عندي نقطتان ونختم إن شاء الله. الألفاظ التي نستخدمها في مخاطبتهم وفي الحديث عنهم. الآن خطأ، في أخطاء كثيرة جدا. مثلا لا تقل في وجهه ولا تخاطبه جاء العاجز، جاء المعاق، جاء المعوق. هذه ألفاظ جارحة. مثلا على سبيل المثال استخدم ما تستطيع بحسب ثقافتك في سياقك في بلدك. مثلا أصحاب التحديات الحركية، أصحاب الصعوبات السمعية، الصعوبات البصرية، الصعوبات الحركية، تحديات، صعوبات، ذاك الذي أصيب بفقدان البصر مثلا. في عندك خيارات ملطفة في التعامل، سواء بالوجه أو بالحديث عنه أو عنها وهو يسمع وهي تسمع. وفي لغتنا وفي أدبنا وفي أخلاقنا ما فيه الغناء مما يعيننا على هذا. وطبعا في النهاية رسالة أيضا يا إخوة يا أحبة، وصلني من بعض المتخصصين أن بشكل عام أصحاب فئة التحديات هؤلاء، ونختم بها، يعانون من مشكلة. مثلا شخص عنده تحدي حركي، عنده مشكلة برجله، شلل أو عرج أو صعوبة حركة لسبب ما على سبيل المثال، أو فقدان بصر. فقدان البصر لا علاقة له بضعف قدرته العقلية، فلا تخاطبه كأنه طفل على سبيل المثال. طيب، صعوبة حركته لا يعني أنه طفل، بل قد يكون حامل للشهادات ويفهم في الحياة الدنيا وفي تخصصه أكثر مني أنا ب20 و50 و100 مرة. فلا تخاطبه وكأنه ضعيف في كل شيء في حياته، هو مشكلته في صعوبة الحركة. فلا تبالغ في النظرة إليه وكأنه لا يستطيع شيئا في حياته وتعامله وكأنه طفل. لا، هو عنده صعوبة في زاوية، سهل عليه الزاوية احتراما، إكراما، ودا، تقربا من الله، وفقط، وعامله تماما مثل أي شخص طبيعي. هذا كثير نفسيا بأثر عليهم. ونذكر في النهاية ونختم هاي بها إن شاء الله يا أخوة. وأنا أحضر لأتحدث عن هذا الموضوع أنا صدمت، لأنه على الرغم من عظيم شدة بداهة ما سأقول لكننا لا نفكر فيه، ألا وهو ما منا من أحد إن مد الله بالعمر إلا وسيقع تحت بند من بنود هذه الفئة، الصعوبات الحركية والتحديات والإعاقات. كبر العمر، في واحد فينا بوصل 70، 80، 90 إن مد الله في العمر ولا يعاني من صعوبة نطق، صعوبة سمع، صعوبة بصر، صعوبة حركة، صعوبة دخول حمام، صعوبة صعود الدرج، نزول الدرج، ركوب السيارة، الركب، ثاني الركب، الصلاة، السجود. كلها تحديات وإعاقات حركية سمعية بصرية نفسية، كل اللي بدك إياه. فعاجلا أم آجلا كلنا تقريبا سندخل تحت صنف من هذه التصنيفات، تحت هذه المظلة الكبيرة. فلنستعد خلقا، شرعا، أدبا، ودا، طلبا للأجر، ونجعلها ثقافة في أنفسنا، في من نمون عليه من حولنا. وإن كنت صاحب قرار فاسعى أن تغير قوانين منطقتك، مسجدك، مركزك. وإن كنت صاحب قرار أكبر فاسعى لفتح باب التسهيلات لهؤلاء، لعل الله سبحانه وتعالى يكسبك الأجر، فهو واجب علينا وليس منة منا على أحد. أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن نكون قد وفقنا لتصحيح بعض المفاهيم حول التعامل مع أصحاب التحديات السمعية والبصرية والحركية والنفسية والعقلية. هذا محدثكم أمجد قرشة من شرق كندا عبر تطبيق مسلم دو أبليكيشن. يستودعكم الله الذي لا تضيع ودائعه. فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, and welcome back to another episode of The Art of Parenting. This is your host, Brother Allah. It's an honor for me to go through with this with you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you, your family, health and wealth, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gather us with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the highest level of Firdaus al-A'la with no accountability as he gathers us tonight. Today, I actually was going to talk about something else, but on the way over, my daughter Sarah, she told me, let's talk about Christmas, and I think she's right. So the art of parenting is sometimes you have to listen to your children, and that's exactly what I'm going to do today. So we walk the talk and lead by example, and I will honor my daughter's request, and let's talk about how they deal with your children in the Christmas time. Talk about the good, the bad, and ugly, the truth, false, or friction, meaning F-I-X, or fiction, F-I-C. T-I-O-N. So it talk about what is it exactly and how people feel about it, and how do you handle your children when it comes to Christmas time, not just Christmas time, when it comes to Halloween, when it comes to Valentine, when it comes to everything else that comes by living here in the West, especially in Canada, or whatever you may be. Alhamdulillah that we have our own belief and we have our own aqeedah, we have our own Eid, so we don't have to worry about that whatsoever. It's not us that we have to worry about, it's our children, especially the ones that are born and raised here. Now, some of us actually have children who were born and raised somewhere else, and we just migrated recently, so I'm not worried about them too much. But born and raised here is the one that I have a little bit concerned, because you don't understand it, especially when they were not raised in the proper manner, and ourselves, we're not really on the straight and narrow either. Let's just be honest about it. Let's be frank, and we gloves are off is our approach, is whatever it takes to get there, get back on the right track is my motto, inshallah. By making learning fun, let's talk about the truth behind Christmas. You will know that even Christian scholars will tell you that they don't believe in Christmas, not in the Christmas in itself as we know it, but in itself, meaning that 25th of December, because they know it was a pagan holiday. You know, it was, they actually used to worship the sun, and all of that background, if you surf it, you'll find out that that's what it is. So true Christians actually don't celebrate Christmas. But as you know, the secular Christians and the one that actually don't know the truth about it, they're not so religious like the average person. Like we have it ourselves as Muslims. We have the average secular Muslim. We have the average Joe, the hand-me-down Muslim, the one that doesn't know about Shawar Islam, but who's born a Muslim. Their mom and dad told them to do so, and that's basically what it is. We found out later that actually, according to the Quran and Sunnah, doesn't mean much what we talked about, and that's what we know. We don't know much about our religion, but we inherited it. My name is Muhammad, my name is Fatima, I was born into this deen, but I don't know much about it, and that's more of a cultural Islam. They have the same thing too. By the way, not everything, it's every religion on the face of the earth has the same issues and same concerns. And when I sit on the multi-faith committee, and actually all the religious spiritual leaders, we talk about these issues, and we have the same concerns, we have the same issues, but it's just in a different culture, in a different religion, different color, different the language, different country, but it's the same issues. So when your children actually look at the beautiful Christmas lights, and they are beautiful, I'm not going to deny that fact. As a matter of fact, Sheikh Abdullah Idris Habibullah shared this story with me. He said he was walking once in the mall, and there was a mother being told by her child that these are beautiful Christmas lights. So she said, no, they're not beautiful, they're ugly. So Sheikh Abdullah Idris was right there, Hafidahullah, and he says, do you know who I am? She says, yes, I know who you are. He says, don't do that to your children. They are beautiful Christmas lights. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna, if we believe that these are Christmas lights, that it doesn't mean, speaking of the lights, I'm just getting a flag that my battery is low. So just in case the lights are out, it's not like Shaitan is trying to get me off track and not make me talk about how to handle Christmas. Inshallah, we'll get through it. But just in case I cut off all of a sudden, don't worry about it. There's no jinn here. So Allah Kareem, inshallah. So in essence, we have to also understand that we live in this country. We have to also be respectful to others. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to believe in it and follow into it and enjoying that what we don't believe in. That's not the case. But we lakum dinukum waliyadin, to your way, to me my way. And that's basically what we are preaching here. However, there are certain things that we have to understand. That if somebody actually says Merry Christmas, and do we start or do we not start? And look, I know that there are differences between the scholars. I understand that, wallah. But I usually say, if somebody tells me the same thing, I say same to you. Yeah. And we can use some of the opinions of the scholars. Says Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum. In hayyitum bitahiyya faruddu bi ahsan minha aw rudduha. So if you're greeted by a greeting, greet with what's better, or at least reply to it. And I understand it's not Assalamu alaikum. And you're going to say Assalamu ala lmataba'a al-huda, may peace be upon those who follow guidance according to the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a mixed company. What do you reply? So he said Assalamu ala lmataba'a al-huda, may peace be upon those who follow guidance. So we can use that to get out of all the difficulties. And there are differences of opinion among the scholars. There's the hardliners and there are others. But you're living here now, brothers and sisters, who look for solutions. So if somebody tells you this with a smiling face and you're going to go like this and you go, you're kafir, you're going to hellfire and all of that stuff, it's not going to do much very good for da'wah or Islam whatsoever. They don't understand it. Okay? And they do come and say, Ramadan Mubarak to us and all that stuff, and it makes us feel good. Doesn't necessarily mean that we have to reciprocate and say, you know what, well, Merry Christmas and happy Halloween and happy Valentine. It doesn't mean that. Yes? To you your way, to me my way. And if it's being nice, well, we have to be nice, but in a way that doesn't take us out of our own faith and our own belief, and we have to do so. However, we have to lead by example and also show our children how to handle it and why. Okay, so we have to explain to them why even some of the Christians don't believe that December 25th is the birth date of Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, and we believe that he is Ruhullah, he is the spirit of Allah, he is kalimatun min, he is the word of Allah, meaning kun, ayakun. He's the one that says be and it is. And he's the one, he was born of immaculate birth, no male intervention. He is alive, he is coming back.
Sheikh Ala, you are muted. Sheikh Ala.
We have some other things that are coming in that we don't understand it. So we have to do our homework. We have to tell our children, raise them, and teach them what we believe in Isa alayhi salam. That we don't, we have that much in common. We tell them what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told about Isa alayhi salam in the best way possible. And how the hadith, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he talked about. And he was good to sis on all of the ayat that we can actually train our children to be able to be immune. And also to have the ammunition to be able, when they go in the battlefield, to know exactly how to deal with others when they accuse them that you are this and you are that and so on. So these are the issues that we have to discuss with them, be frank with our children and be frank with ourselves, because if you're going to be like them, you're going to be resurrected with them. And that's what Prophet Muhammad said, if you're going to be acting like other people, you will be resurrected with them. So do you want to ask yourself a question? Do I want to be resurrected with them? Because the hadith says, Huzzi, the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Maryam alayhi salam, the mother of Jesus, may peace be upon him, Isa alayhi salam, that shake the trunk of the date tree, the dates will fall onto thee. So that means it was most likely in the summer. That's what the majority of the scholars will say. Regardless, it's not really our topic now, but since it is what it is, we have to know what we're talking about. Understanding that what does it really mean, the resurrection, the crucifixion, the Trinity. Take that opportunity to turn a negative into a positive and make it into a training session and raise awareness and educate your children what it's about. Understanding what they say and why they think that way, and why we have to believe in what we believe and what we actually believe in about Isa alayhi salam. So when I talk to these people about Isa, how we believe in him, they say we follow Isa more than you. He used to put his forehead down to the ground, and all of that we explain to them. Then you will find out, wow, you're not that far, and believe it or not, they will not think that you are so different, and you're not a terrorist, but you're a tourist. In the land of milk and honey, and anything money is all about money. So please understand that you don't have to compensate your religion in order for you to be taken in as a friend, in order to be accepted, in order for you to be able to ask your children to go ahead and celebrate with them. You're one of them now. You're Canadian. Yes, we are Canadian. We are proud Canadian indeed. But we are Muslim Canadians. We have our own identity, and there's no contradiction and there's no conflict of anything else, that we are supposed to be the best of both worlds. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you, protect your family, protect your health and wealth. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep your identity to be as you are. Your name is Muhammad, your name is Fatima, your name is Aisha, Khadija, Abdul Rahman. Nothing else will change that, and no one else will affect you more than that. Remember, we say Allahu Akbar every time, all the time, in the adhan, in the iqamah, in the prayer. First thing you heard in your right ear from your father was Allahu Akbar. So live accordingly. God is greater than what? Than everything. Remember, nothing will change that, so don't change. Don't be a fruit salad. Today you're an orange, tomorrow you're an apple, after that you're a banana. Hold on to who you are, and I'm going to quote a line from the Lion King. Remember who you are. May Allah bless you, family, health, and wealth, protect you. Hold on to La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and hold on to your identity. People will respect you for that. You don't have to offend anyone in order for you to hold on to your identity. It is, after all, one race. It is a human race, and it is freedom of religion and freedom of speech. They can't force you to believe in anything else, and they do understand that. It is the mosaic. It's not the melting pot like our neighbors in the south. We are the north. Everybody respects everybody here, so let's keep it that way. May Allah bless you. Jazakumullah khairan for your time, and I will see you inshallah next week. Don't forget your dua. I won't forget your dua. Subhanak Allahumma hamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most compassionate, the most merciful. All praise and thanks are due to him, and peace and blessings be upon his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum, respected brothers and sisters. We are broadcasting through Muslim Do application from East Canada, and this is Fixing Misconceptions with me. I'm the host of this program, Amjad Qorsha. I'm very happy to be with you in a new episode of Fixing Misconceptions. Just to let you know, Fixing Misconceptions comes every Monday. The first episode at the beginning of our broadcast will be in Arabic. Next one, which is what I'm doing now, will be in English, inshallah. Just about 1 hour ago, I highlighted the concept of how to deal with the people of disabilities. Let me, just a few days ago, we were celebrating something very special, which is, let's say, December 3rd. It was the annual observance of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities as declared by the United Nations. So a group of Muslims, special entities of Muslims, they asked a number of khatibs and imams to tackle this point from Islamic point of view. And they asked us to do our khutbah under the umbrella of the following title, which was Disability and Our Obligation to Empower Participation and Leadership. And we were told that Muslims with disabilities are asking you to participate in this international campaign to get masajids, Islamic centers, and schools to help Muslims understand disability from an Islamic perspective. One of the shocking things that we were told by this special group, which is Deen Support Services, it's a special non-profit organization which is founded by disabled Muslims to help anyone who is facing the problem of disability. They told us that over 15%, just for the sake of awareness, that how much do we need to spread awareness and to fix many misconceptions about the status, the number, the percentage, the challenges, the problems of people with disabilities around the world and within Muslim communities in the world. So one of the things that was astonishing, that over 15% of the world's population have disabilities, and about 22% of them in Canada. They gave two examples from Muslim countries. In Pakistan, over 17 million, and in Egypt, about 7 million. Can you imagine? You know, 15% of populations, about 1 billion people, they have disabilities. So one of the things that we were told that we need to learn from our beloved prophet and change the way we value people with disabilities. We need to make our centers accessible and respectful so that people with disabilities feel they belong to the house of Allah when they come to pray. So one of the beautiful things that we tried our best to highlight in fixing misconceptions, how to look to this category of people, because one of the astonishing things that we came across, and we know that some cultures, not Islamic, but within Muslims in Islamic countries, however, it's not derived from Islam, it's not attached to Islam, but unfortunately some Muslims, they adopted it, they believe in it. I don't know why and how. Some, unfortunately, Muslims think that a disability of a person is a sign of a curse or a punishment from God, which is a big mistake, and this is not true at all. Any type of disability is part of the test and the trial by God, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to all human beings. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated clearly, الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم. He is the one who created life and death so that he will set you into trial, or he will test you. So every one of us has his own test. Some of us, their test in their disabilities. This disability could be in the sight, in the hearing, in the way of talking, in the way of their moving, in the weakness of their some parts of their bodies, sometimes psychological, and relatively speaking, sometimes mental. So one of the most important things we need. So, and we were encouraged in this khutbah basically to highlight how great our religion is in dealing with people of disabilities. One of the greatest examples is the example of Abdullah ibn Maktoum. Abdullah ibn Maktoum holds, the very well-known, which Surah Abasa was revealed because of a specific incident happened with him, radiallahu anhu. May Allah be pleased with him. Abdullah ibn Maktoum, he holds a very unique distinction in Islam, being one of two people assigned by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to perform the daily calls to prayer, the other being Bilal ibn Rabah. As many may know, the context around Surah Abasa, chapter 80 of the Quran, was revealed in the early period of Islam, when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was preaching about the teachings of Islam to the chiefs of Mecca. And Abdullah ibn Maktoum came and interrupted the gathering with a request, which caused the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to frown momentarily. That's why Abasa wa tawalla. He had this just a moment of frown, because he came with a request, as if he's insisted, while Prophet Muhammad was approaching the chiefs of Mecca with a hope to bring them to Islam. So even this very slight expression of displeasure, even though it was invisible to Abdullah ibn Maktoum, but it was considered as something that should not be done by the prophets. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed عَبَسَ وَتَوَلَّى أَنْ جَاءَهُ الْأَعْمَى وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى, which was some kind of, blaming for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for he has done, something that should not be done. And he used to, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he used to see Abdullah ibn Maktoum in the street later, every time he sees him, he used to say, مَرْحَبًا بِمَنْ عَاتَبَنِي فِيهِ رَبِّي, or most welcome in the one whom I was blamed because of him, which means, Prophet Muhammad was referring to the status of, or let me correct the terminology. Maybe it's better in English to say to reproach, itab, okay? مرحبا بمن عاتبني, most welcome with the person whom I was reproached because of him. This is an indication how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is directing his Prophet Muhammad and directing us by default how to deal with any person of disability. So the first fixing of misconception, a disability is not a curse or a punishment. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stating the high value, how respectful the attitude of us when we deal with this category with people. Another message that we need to know in fixing our conceptions. Now, اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. One of the great, let's say, things that we need to know about that, sometimes, especially in the Arabic language, I'm addressing Arabs and non-Arabs now, the way how we deal with those people, when you are approaching them, speaking with them, discussing with them, talking about them, talking with them, be careful about the language and the words that you are using. For example, in English, instead of saying the disabled, the person with disability, it brings, a lot of comfort to the person, for example, okay? Don't say, for example, the blind person, the person with blindness, for example, or the person who is blind, for example. So do your best, take in consideration your language, your culture, how to deal. Now, speaking with Muslims in Arab and non-Arab worlds and or in the West. If we are talking in the West, if you are listening to me and you belong to Islamic center, to a masjid, to a school, please do your best in light of this big need, especially in our cultures now. I mean, in the whole of North America, generally speaking, Canada and United States, the whole system is built on the base of, let's say, providing facilities for those people. So it's so easy for us to consider this Islamically, and the system helps to make our masajid, for example, accessible for them. The places of wudu, the ablution, make it very easy for them. In case if they attend the Friday prayers, any kind of aids of, sign language, will speak with the people who are, deaf and dumb. They can't hear, so they can't speak. When they attend, they don't know what you are saying. If you have enough volunteers, people of sign language, who can attend, for example, the Friday prayer next to the Khatib, speaking in a special room, bringing them, if there is a number of them, speaking the sign language for them, for example, okay? Or helping the people with Braille language, for example, reading something or whatever. Any kind of access for any people of disability in the masjid in specific, which is the place of worship. Part of his life, he is facing a problem, a challenge, okay? People of challenge. They are facing a challenge in their life. Let us be helpful and make this challenge easy on them in other parts of their life, in specific their spiritual life, the place where they are connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in case, if you are listening to me and you are not living in the West, some Arab Muslim countries, I know I'm not addressing now officials, I'm not addressing presidents or people of, the MPs, member of parliaments, I'm not addressing ministers now or prime minister, but I'm addressing, like myself, the ordinary people who are listening to us. Do your best, make any kind of influence to make their lives easy in your company, your colleagues, at your family, the place where you live, the company that you work. Try to use your power, your, let's say, abilities, your skills of arguing, of discussion, to convey the message, to make things easy for those people as much as you can. And finally, let me finish with this. None of us, but we will face a kind of disability before we leave this life. You never know. Any type of illness, especially when we become elder. You know, when you are elder, you will be facing a number of diseases, illness, weakness in your bones, your backache, you can't move. Maybe you will be completely disabled because some weakness in your knees. Maybe you can't hear anymore. Maybe you can't accept with the devices. At any moment you lose this device, you cannot able to hear. You know, many things we are facing because we are witnessing this for nearly 99% of people on earth, even with the best healthcare systems. This is part of the nature that Allah has ordained upon us. So let us, you know, activate the beauty of our Islamic teachings, and let's create a reality which is accessible, make it easy for those people in our lives, so that even ourselves, when we are in need for these things, we will find it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept you, your deeds from you and us, and make us of help for the people of disability. Allahumma ameen. This is your brother Amjad Qorsha from Muslim Do application, asking you to make the dua for us and all of us, inshallah, for all Muslims and all humanity. May Allah guide everyone to the truth. Jazakumullah khair. See you, inshallah, next week. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Once again, my name is Ali Usman, your brother from IRA. Alhamdulillah, today we're still continuing with our message of how to share the message of Islam. So before we begin, obviously we start with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, the greeting of peace to all my brothers and sisters in Islam and all of the humanity out there if it's watching this. So today we are going to be discussing, before we do that, I just want to kind of recap what we've covered so far. So in the last few episodes, we covered what is dawah, motivations or rewards of the dawah. Then we covered the dawah downfall, why the dawah doesn't work. And then we talked about why knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very important. And then we talked about the fitrah, the innate disposition. And then we talked about the go-rap approach. What is the go-rap approach and how do we apply that in our dawah technique, how to call people to La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And then we talked about, you know, the God's existence, okay? And today we will be discussing the oneness. How do we articulate the oneness? So we're going to get going quickly. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Last week we covered, did the universe come from nothing? Did the universe create itself? Did the universe had a creator that was created by something else? And that cannot go on to infinite. There has to be a first cause that's an uncaused cause. And that cause is not like the creation that we discovered that we said, there would be an uncaused cause that has not been caused and it's always been there. Otherwise, we will go into the infinite regress challenge. And that's something we discuss how to articulate to an atheist or mulhideen, someone who rejects there's a creator. And we said that this is taking it from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to use mantak and logic to articulate our message. So this is not kalam, brothers and sisters. I don't want people to think that this is a kalam argument. This is taken right from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or were they created by nothing, or were they the creators of themselves, or did they create the heavens and the earth? Rather, they're not certain. So once we've kind of got that agreement that there has to be a first cause that was an uncaused cause. Now we're not defining what this cause is. We're just saying there's an uncaused cause. We left that at the last session. Today we will be discussing what the nature of this one, the first cause is. This is when we're talking about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. So that's the discussion. Today is the O part of the go rap, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So basically what we're saying here is how would we articulate that God is one? So once the person accepts that the creator or the first cause is an uncreated creator, right? Like we discussed, the creator is uncreated creator, therefore is never had a beginning, is always existed. If we've got this agreement from the last discussion, we taught how to share this. Now what we want to do is, instead of them telling us what the nature of God is, now we are the ones that are explaining to this person what God is. And this can apply to whether it's a mulhideen, an atheist, it could be a Hindu, it could be a Buddhist, it could be a Christian. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter, because the essence of what a creator in Islam is, it's unlike any other tradition. Obviously, Islam is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the haq, comes from the truth, al-haq. So it is the truth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has announced himself to mankind through his revelation, right, from his book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what I wanted to share with you, just because these people think they're very rational and very intuitive and they're intellectual, so we're discussing with these people how they think that they understand. So, you know, not only are we using mantak, logic, we are now defining who our creator is. So here, brothers and sisters, what I want to share with you is we're not here to understand what they believe what God is, okay? Because their understanding of God is incorrect. That's why we're having this discussion in Islam, that why we believe Islam is the truth, why we believe this is far superior than any other tradition. So at this point, we are not interested to know what they think God is. This is the time that we give them dawah. For example, Sheikh Kamal Makki, one of the great da'is in the US, says there's only two conditions of a person in a dawah situation: either you're giving dawah or you're getting dawah. So this is the time that you do not get dawah. You don't want to know that God is an elephant or a spaghetti monster. You're not here to know what their understanding of God is. This is the time for us to explain to what God is. So what we want to do, and even our scholars and ulama have spoken in the past, that rationally, intuitively, there are some attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that human beings can deduce from their intellect. So the creator of the heavens and the earth is transcending, meaning the creator is not like the creation. This is very rational. If I make the phone, I don't turn into the phone. If I make the table, I don't become the table. So the creator doesn't become the creation, number one. Number two, this creator is self-sufficient, independent, al-ghani. He's not dependent on anything, okay? We all are needing. If a creator or God has to eat grass to survive, then that's not God, because it's contingent and dependent on something in creation. So in the same way, the creator has to be self-sufficient, okay? This creator is powerful. How do we know? Then when we look at the creation, we see if we take a smallest atom and we split it in half and we have a huge combustion. So that means if a small atom has so much power, what would the being who created all of this, what kind of power this being have? So this is very rational, very intuitive, very logical. We're not coming up with any kind of philosophical kalam discourse. We're just rationally trying to prove to a being transcendent, self-sufficient, powerful, and then explaining to the person that this being is all knowing. Why is it knowing? Because if I make the phone, I know everything about the phone, from the conception of the phone, the design, the model of the phone, all the algorithms and what are the features and everything about the phone, because I'm the one who created it. So I must be all knowing of the phone. In the same way, the creator of the creation, we can see whoever created the universe and the creation must know what the creation is like. So he is all knowing. Okay. And then, for example, he has a will. So what do we mean here? So if I make something, let's say, I don't know if you can see the phone, but I usually try to hold the phone up. I know there's sometimes these phones don't show from the back screen, but if I have a phone, this phone has a certain temperature, it has a certain color, it has a certain depth, it has some feeling. All of these, or this hard drive, for example, it has a certain color, it has a certain temperature, it has a certain width, a size. So I made this hard drive, or I constructed this hard drive, or created this hard drive in a specific manner. That means I had a will to do this. It's not like I haphazardly threw metal and plastic together and all of a sudden this hard drive came into play and has all this spinning discs and everything else. So in the same way, the one who created the universe and the creation must have a will. These are very rational, intuitive things for someone to be able to explain to someone. So I just want you guys to all know, when we're talking about the nature of God, we're the one who's giving dawah. These are the things we want to share with them. Okay, moving forward. Obviously, we talked about the creator doesn't become the creation. I give an example. If I make the phone, I don't become the phone. We talked about that, so where did God come, or who created God? So we're saying that the creator cannot have another God, because if you have another God, then that's not God. If that God has another God, can have another God. So you have to go back to a source. Sister, sorry, I think there was a network issue. We only have a few more minutes. So I just want to quickly share the things that we're talking about when we're talking about God oneness. We're giving them dawah. We're explaining to them the creator doesn't become the creation. The creator is not depending like the creation. All of us need help. The creator doesn't need help. When we're giving the explanation what God is, we're saying God is self-sufficient, or the creator is self-sufficient. He's eternal. He's free of time and space. When you look at the creation is needy. The creation, is, temporary. God is eternal. The creation is, confined by time and space. When we look at the creator, the creator is free of time and space. It's outside of time. It's outside of space. So like I said, brothers and sisters, when we're explaining about God, we are telling them who God is. And we want to tell them in Islamic theology, this is what we're talking about, oneness of God. We don't want to understand their understanding of God is, because their understanding is going to be incorrect. This is not to super overpower them. We still are respectful. We still have the adab and all of those things as a da'i. But when it comes to this part of oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to take the lead on explaining to them what God is. So that's kind of the idea. And we even look at the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah tells us in the Quran, he says, say, kul, if there had been other gods, as they say, then they each would of the throne. And you can use these kind of rational arguments as well, that you can explain to them, if there was multiple kings or multiple chefs in the kitchen or multiple prime ministers in a country, how would that work? It's just very rational, intuitive to explain these kind of things, that God is one. Usually, brothers and sisters, the challenge of explaining God's oneness is not that deep and not very technical. This is very easy for people to understand because it rationally makes sense to them. Everyone can understand this unless they come from a culture that teaches maybe pantheism. So it's not their intuitive self that they're kind of following. They're actually following the culture. So that's why usually these kind of discussions where you would have challenges with maybe someone in Hinduism or something like that, or someone who believes in multiple gods, right? So it's very easy to discuss this in the dawah, inshallah. So just to recap before we kind of wrap it up, number one, we are here to explain the nature of God. Who is God, right? It's very rational conclusion. The creator doesn't become the creation, as we explained. The universe is created itself is illogical. So, what is, just talking to them about these things. Like if I make the phone, if I have a phone, I don't become the phone. I know you guys can't see the phone, but if I make this hard drive, I don't turn into the hard drive, right? So it's very rational, very intuitive, talking about God's oneness. We're saying that this creator is not like his creation. So for example, I can say there's one hard drive, but there might be another hard drive like it. So there's many ones, but when we're talking about the creator of the heaven and the earth, he's uniquely one. There is no one like this being. So get them to understand this and get them to accept this and, get an agreement from them that, do you agree to this? And if they don't agree, brothers and sisters, always question what is that's holding them back? What are the challenges they're having? And have those discussions. I truly believe when it comes to the dawah, it is not a 2-second job. Sometimes you have to have those lengthy discussions, but they have to be productive. They have to have a goal. You have to have something in their mind to go to. I wanted to share something with you guys. I only have a couple minutes, but if I can find it here, just give me 1 second. So a brother shared something to me very recently, and it was really phenomenal. And he said that whenever you get into a discussion with someone, especially in the dawah, you want to bring the person closer. So this is off the topic of oneness, but say, say, hey, brother, I'm from Toronto, or what? I'm from Indo-Pak. Are you from Indo-Pak? Or I'm Arab? Whatever bring him to his tribe so he feels more comfortable. Or you say, I'm Bani Adam. I'm a human being like you. So many ways to bring people together. Number two, in the dawah, sets of expectations. Where do we want to end up? What is the thing we want to, want to get? Three, make the person feel good. Don't make them feel upset. The Prophet ﷺ.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, I'm back on Muslim Do for another session. Jazakallah khair to everyone working in the backgrounds, as well as Dr. Amjad Kursha for all their hard work, and may Allah bless you for it, inshallah. So today we're going to talk about really the spread of Islam in India. The past sessions I covered the Taj Mahal and the Jama Masjid, just to give you two little things that are really symbolic to the country. And today we're going to start talking about how they were built, how did Islam come into the country in general. So we can say that Islam arrived actually in South Asia long before any Muslim conquest. And over centuries, India and the Arab world have maintained substantial commercial and cultural ties. And majorly, they would trade spices, gold, jewelry, elephants, and other things related to those, that you would only find in India. And they would usually come to the west coast of India, particularly the Malabar coasts. And because those were major trading areas that Arab merchants passed on their way to Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. So as a result of the strong Arab presence, the first masjid that was actually built in India was actually in Kerala. And it was a place at the west coast, and it was called the Cheraman Juma Masjid. And the story follows of a king who was called a Cheraman Pulaman, how those were what you called those South Indian kings. And what he was present during the times of actually Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam long back. And after a personal experience, he converted to Islam and he established the first masjid, which is right there. And the interesting part to understand or to remark is that the masjid was actually transformed from a mandir or a temple, and it was transformed to a masjid. And so what's the proof for that? Well, the masjid initially used to face the east instead of the Kaaba. So when they made this into a masjid, they actually had to renovate and rebuild areas so that the people coming to the religious institution could face the Kaaba, because we all face the Kaaba when we go pray. And due to the growing of Islam in the West Coast, migrants from numerous Arabian nations emigrated to various regions and kingdoms of the Indian subcontinent, majorly as traders because of spices, etc. And marriage, etc., causing a lot of colonies. Therefore, Arabian blood has a strong presence in many South Indian families. So that is one of the very oldest known spread of Islam things. But initially, at the current moment in India, the Islamic Hindu nationalist parties, they conspire against Indian Muslims by propagating baseless and inaccurate information regarding the Indian Muslim history. And they usually defame the Mughal Empire, being it the root cause of evil, etc. And they basically mislead the population who have no idea of the Muslim history in general about how Islam was spread, and concluding that Mughal Empire was really the start of it. But however, that is not the case. We've discussed the history of the masjid in India that was present today in Kerala, and we have defined its status since the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as a result of the rich Arab population, Islam spread way before the time of Mughals. And one thing to note is that the Mughal Empire, started ruling in the early 16th centuries. And if we want to say that this masjid was around the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's way before then. And however, and also the first, the establishment of the early Islamic India, Muhammad bin Qasim, right? He was a close relative of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, and he was also an Umayyad Caliphate Arab military commander who commanded the Muslim conquest of Sindh in the Battle of Auror. And this happened in 712 AD. So basically, he was the first Muslim to establish the early Islamic India. And additionally, Sufism, played a very prominent role in the spread of Islam in India. It was spread by key Sufis such as Muinuddin Chishti in Ajmer, and also Nizamuddin Auliya and Amir Khusru in Delhi, right? Now, as Islam grew, the Mughals came in, and the first Mughal emperor was Babur. And before the British period, the Mughal Empire was actually present for around 400 years. And one of the most historical masjid that was present in India was probably the Babri Masjid. And it was built by the commander of the first Mughal ruler, Babur, in Western India, which is why if Babur is the first ruler, it's probably one of like the oldest historical sites that was present in India. But however, on the 6th December of 1992, they were like, again, the Islamophobic Hindu Nationalist Party, they spread rumors, and they, they misled millions of people into believing that there was idols or something inside the masjid. And they, with a lot of conspiracy, they broke the masjid. And because the historic masjid was demolished, it led to widespread riots, causing the deaths of thousands of innocent Muslims across the country due to a violent political storm that spread across the nation. And a lot of people still exists today. It still hurts many people today, and the Islamophobia and everything is still present in that country today. The oppression is also present in that country today. It's a systematic one as well. And so today, December 6th, which is today, marks the anniversary of Black Day of the so-called secular India, to commemorate the loss of the prominent historical site and of the loss of Indian secularism and democracy. So this Jazakallah khair for tuning in to this Muslim Do session. May Allah bless you all for tuning in, and take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to Muslim Do Success Stories. MashaAllah, in this particular segment, we highlight and spotlight Muslim figures in the community who's doing amazing work. And MashaAllah, with me here today is Sheikh Silla. Oh man, MashaAllah, he's from Islam Feeds Communities, doing a lot of amazing work. But Sheikh, welcome aboard. How are you doing, man?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum salam. Muhammad Maxwell, Jazakallah khair for having me. I'm doing well. Anytime we get an opportunity to link up and have a conversation, because it's always a conversation. It's never an interview. It's always a conversation. I appreciate that, and I value that, and I thank you for having me on this platform.
Yeah, likewise, Hamza. You're doing amazing work, especially with Islam Feeds Communities. For those who aren't aware, and maybe for those who kind of need like a nutshell, condensed, if you can talk to me, how did you start up with this whole initiative? And we'll unpack it as we go.
So Islam Feeds Communities is the final name for what I would call a 3-stage process when it comes to trying to feed the poor. The first stage of it was we had a group chat of Ryerson students, of guys that used to hang out together, pray together, eat together, play sports together. And we said, you know what, let's just make a group chat where everybody, every month you donate $20. We'll take that money, we'll just go buy some type of food like groceries, and then we'll donate it to a food bank. So it was a form of continuous charity that we were able to do. You understand? Something that would be small but continuous. After that, because of the fact that there's so many people, there's 9 of us, and each person has their circle that has 6 degrees of separation, so to speak. Everybody would add one person. So the group had maybe about 40 people. And so then we called it Miskeen Feeding Group. Not trying to think of a fancy title, but just because of the fact that we said, this is just what we do. We try to feed Masakeen, like indirectly, right? And 1 month, what happened was a group of brothers, not even a group of brothers, one brother, he literally added 20 guys from one masjid. And they liked the initiative. And that month was a good month as far as funding goes. This was like April 2020. Mind you, we started the initiative in around March of 2019. So April 2020, we did so well, and we were able to donate to a homeless shelter in Toronto, youth homeless shelter. And we said, you know what we're doing is good, but we would have loved that they would have known from the very onset that this was a Muslim organization. So there and then I said, I talked to my partner and co-founder Irab. I said, let's rename this to Islam Feeds Communities, because it wasn't something that we said we're going to start this and be the leaders of it. It just happened to be that we were the ones that were doing the most legwork. Everybody would contribute, but we would do the legwork, the organization, and the feedback. So we said, let's name it to Islam Feeds Communities. Let's incorporate it, create an Instagram page, start some modes of outreach. And then, alhamdulillah, we did that. And that same year, that Ramadan, through the help of a lot of good brothers in the city and a lot of good sisters, we were able to raise, I believe, $8,000 that month. And every single dollar went to go buy food. We used our own money. My partner Irab used his own money to rent a truck, multiple trucks actually. We filled it with food, and that kind of visceral success, that visible success, it kind of fed into the momentum of the group. So ever since then, it's been something that's steady. Obviously, Ramadan is when the peak donations they get high. Even this year during Ramadan, we had, I think it was up to 12,000 in food donations, plus another 8,000 in zakat that we distributed to people that were eligible for zakat. So it's something that just began as an impromptu extension of our Islamic values, right? An application of what we learn in Islam in a practical form, to where it grew to becoming something that allowed a lot of people to do that same thing. Because what you'll find is that when it comes to khairat and the obtainment of hasanat, to the obtainment of good deeds, is that everyone wants to do it, but sometimes people have different personalities. Some people are shy, so that when they speak up, they feel as though, I might not be the person to speak up, that should speak up, but they don't realize that more times than not, people are not really judging you in a bad way when you speak up for good. So that's kind of been our Kickstarter. And then every month we tell people what we're doing. We post the receipts and we just say, hey, join our movement. It takes $20, one Uber Eats order out of the month, right? We can all afford that, no matter how times are hard in Canada. So that's been the model behind it. And alhamdulillah, the community's been supportive. The masajid, the organizations, the mashayikh in Toronto, different groups of people in Toronto, from the formal aspect of the Muslim community to, just a regular Joe that's a Muslim that goes to pray salawat in the masajid or prays salawat at home, or identifies as a Muslim and is struggling to live his Islam. But that particular avenue of good is something they can reproduce. You know what I mean? So that's if communities in a nutshell, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. So a couple of things to point out here. It's like humble beginnings. It's not some sort of, that's why I'm really stressing on the Muslim success stories. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people, when they think of charities, they need to be a multi-million-dollar, like full-fledged. But here we are. You had a couple of, you start off with a couple of brothers and you bootstrapped it, and then you can see the evolution of it growing from just a couple of brothers just hanging out, and then after that the Miskeen, and then now mashallah Islam Feeds Communities, and it's a ongoing thing. So kudos to you and the team, mashallah, for that, all the brothers and sisters behind the scenes, subhanAllah. Now, having said that, I'm sure that process is exhilarating in of itself, but along the way, I'm sure you've picked up on some maybe patterns or observations. Let's just see, when it comes to folks who are in need of food, what are some, maybe as an open-ended thing, what have you noticed in terms of general patterns in the way how people view giving donations for food, or maybe people receiving food, or maybe the people like what are some things you've noticed?
So there's because of the fact that the last 2 years I've been traveling quite a bit, right? I've been to Senegal. I've probably spent a total of 10 months or 11 months in Senegal out of the past 24. So we've had some of our operations in Senegal and some of our operations in Toronto. So I can kind of dichotomize based on that. When it comes to Africa, and Senegal is a 97% Muslim country, alhamdulillah, you don't realize when you're in this country, and alhamdulillah, you're living a fairly, you're enjoying a fairly decent standard of life. You don't know how difficult it is for people back there. There's people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in Surah Al-Baqarah, that the fuqara, the ones that are poor, they're not the same as the masakeen. The fuqara are those who, they're prevented from moving about in the land in search of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounty. And they are prevented from asking people by virtue of the dignity and the izzah that they have. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you'll recognize the marks of the poverty. Like, you'll see the traces of poverty on them. So you can see someone, alhamdulillah, he goes to the masjid, he has a kaftan that's cleanly pressed. It might be one of 2 kaftans that he wears in the whole month, but it's always cleanly pressed. He has his shoe, he has his tasbih, and he goes to the masjid. But that person, even to have $20 in 1 month, it's a struggle. And this is the experience of many in the Muslim Ummah across the different countries aside from Canada, right? Whether it's in Senegal, the Sheikh mentioned he was from Jordan. I don't think Jordan is one of the richer. It's not a rich country like the Khalij countries, but places like Jordan and Lebanon, you see similar struggles there. All throughout North Africa and just generally throughout the world, you'll see that there's 2 experiences. You understand? And we have to be mindful of the broader experiences that people are going through in this life, that it's not just relegated to what we're experiencing in Canada. Now, with respect to Canada, what I would say is one of the biggest challenges is that there are a lot of people, due to, I would say, chronic issues that have to do with their socialization or their social circumstances or their mental health, that they're kind of cut off from people. We had one gentleman that we would consistently bring food to every month, and he was in a situation to where he's close to 80 years old. His wife had dementia. One of his sons has, a similar type of issue, and he himself has traces of difficulties when it comes to processing information. And so we were put in touch with him by another brother through informal means, so that every month we could go bring him food and like without like him going to an organization. He didn't want to go to an organization such as a food bank or something like that, because that would put him to shame. So the lessons that tells us is that, to a certain extent, when we become aware of the problems of certain people, it's something that we have to shoulder the responsibility to an extent, right? The institutional is just a microcosm of the larger reality. Islam Feast Community is an institutional structure designed to initiate a process to where we can affect the reality. But the reality is much larger than just what If Communities is doing. There's much more hungry people than just the ones that are going to Muslim Welfare Canada or at the youth shelters or whatever the case might be. So it's a reminder for me at the very least that, our life has to be oriented towards spending in some respect. And I think that there's a dichotomy between what people expect Islam to say about spending, or what they think Islam says about spending, and what their own perception is, and what the reality of Islam is. Because when it comes to spending in Islam, it's a continuous process. Fi sabilillah, fi sabilillah. We know that fi sabilillah in the time of the conflicts between the Messenger and the Quraysh had a certain connotation. But in the context after that, and in general life, the way of Allah is anything that would lead the people closer to Allah, or allow the people to appreciate the blessings of Allah in one way or another. You understand? And we have to kind of incorporate that into our lives. And I think that I sometimes fear the hadith where the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that towards the end of time, that stinginess will be thrown in people's hearts. And all of us are going to be affected by it, no matter how outwardly religious that we are. I remember I was sitting with my grandfather one day, may Allah be pleased with him, Sheikh Salim, and he looked at me randomly. He said, Sheikh, he said, spend. He said, there's no such thing as a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't spend. There's no such thing as a wali that's a bakhil. That's a stingy person. You understand? Yeah, call him any other name, but don't call him a wali. And then I remember him telling me that he told me many things, but the essence of what he told me was essentially, you have to spend. And I don't mean spend in a reckless manner, but you have to kind of be willing to take your wealth, and beyond what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has required of it, be willing to spend towards good. And inshallah, you'll get the reward for it. So that's the philosophy behind Islam Feast Communities and what we're trying to get people to see. You understand? We're trying to connect people to a larger Islamic ethos, not just I'm doing this good deed to feel good. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who spend so they can be seen of men, not because they believe in Allah in the last day. And that's what's occurring today. I'm not talking about in terms of individuals, but in terms of institutions. Outside of the Muslim institutions and some of these other religious institutions, most organizations that spend in terms of good, they're doing it to be seen by men. Right? When I say by men, to be seen by people, to raise their profile, so that people can know, okay, this organization is doing this, so let's buy their product. You understand? Whereas we're trying to make people understand that, man, the Jannah of your Lord comes with a heavy price. but what's the better way to obtain it than, spending, like actual money that has a price towards obtaining that, right? So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
no, I got
some of the things that I've noticed, right? And my observations.
MashaAllah. So okay, let's see. So from what I understand, one of the biggest things is that like the whole issue of hunger seems to be invisible to most. Sometimes if we're already cooped up in our, let's say in our house, in our apartment, you don't really think about the folks who maybe don't have a fridge, who can't get that jar of peanut butter or what have you, or whatever the basic necessities. So that's one big thing. But you mentioned a very interesting point, and I think this will lead to very nicely into this next segment here in terms of about the issue of spending. Now, in your opinion, in your experience, mashallah, it sounds like you've surrounded yourself with a number of brothers and sisters who are willing to give. In your opinion, are people more holding back, or do you find people who give? Because sometimes maybe some people would say, well, how do I know if the food is like going to go to a legitimate cause? Right. Are people more holding back, or do you find people giving? So like that scarcity versus abundance mindset. What do you?
It's based on the khuluq of the person and their orientation. When I say the khuluq, the akhlaq, or their orientation, the way that they are shaped as a person, right? Like in terms of character-wise. I see there's a lot of people that are willing to spend. A lot of people are willing to spend in the way of good. I've seen that, because if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't be able to do what we're able to do. But then at the same time, I acknowledge that life circumstances are not the same for everyone, especially in the city of Toronto that we live in, where people are paying $1,800 for one bedroom. You sometimes a person that lasts $20 may be what they need to get through the month. And that goes back to the problem that we're having in the city. And it's especially pertinent in Toronto and in the lower half of Ontario, or in the GTHA, as you would call it, is that life is becoming increasingly harder for a lot of people, Muslim or otherwise, And then when it's like that, you can't expect everyone to have the same contribution. But I think that generally the Muslims have a good orientation towards good, because I've never had an initiative. Alhamdulillah, I've been blessed with a large network. And I've never had an initiative where people didn't do their best to donate, but some people, they're just stingy. That's just their nature, right? They're just not going to spend. They're not moved by it. Or sometimes the campaign is not right. I've seen certain campaigns in my own history for what people might term as very flimsy reasons. I say, you know what? I don't know about this. I don't think I'm going to donate to this. I've done that in the past. Maybe that's a husn shar. That's an evil stuff, like sharul dhan. That's an evil thought about that, but that happens sometimes, and I acknowledge it for myself, and I know that other people are seeing the same. So that's why with the Islam Feeds communities, we just try to post the pictures and be like, hey, at least something. If you don't believe that everything is going there, at least something is going there, man. Like, you know what I mean? And at the very least, even if nothing is going there, then hey, you donated your money for something good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you according to your intent, right? But I think the Muslims generally, when they have it in this Canada, I find that they have a pure intention a lot of times than the people back home, and not to insult the people back home in any sense of the word, but what you'll find a lot of times in places that are Muslim dominated, or where the population is a majority Muslim, that people, they'll spend to be seen. An example will be, and I'm not going to say any names, you'll see a person have a very successful business. And a lot of these countries, they're Sufis, just to be honest, and they have these, what they so-called tariqas. And you'll see the tariqas, the brotherhoods, or whatever the case might be, the leader of that organization, a lot of times is a very righteous person. But you'll see someone understanding that these brotherhoods, they have political power, they have sway over a lot of the areas of life. So these people with no good intent in their heart, they will drive by 1,000 miskeen people on their way to go see the leader of that tariqa, or the khalifa of a city that's known to be a very righteous man. And they'll pass 1,000 people and go buy an expensive car for that person. And a lot of times the Khalifa, just to give you an example, just to the reality in Senegal, he will not accept that gift. So here we don't have that issue, alhamdulillah. Everyone that does good here, I really believe that they do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because who are you really going to impress? More times the avenues for doing good, no one knows about it, right? Like you might have raised your hand at the masjid. That's the most acknowledgement that you're going to get. There's no praise for it. The masjid leader is not going to plug you in with Justin Trudeau so you can get a contract next week. He's not going to protect you from persecution because you're the student of knowledge of a very prominent religious leader in Senegal, or the very prominent religious leader in Jordan or Syria or wherever the case might be, right? So I find that the intention of people in Canada, it's very pure, but we're scared to just do, because we've been raised in an area or in a context where institutions are the basis in which are the basis by which things get done. But we forget that every institution at one point was fledgling. Alhamdulillah, we woke up to realize that there were masajid in Canada. I don't know how these masajid started. All my life in Canada, I've gone to a masjid. Everything I've needed to do my worship has been there, right? But that started with a small group of people. Right now you have councils, alhamdulillah, you have boards, you have different type of extensions from those original institutions. So actions are the basis by which you can institute something. You institute action and it becomes repetitive. It becomes an institution. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's what we're striving for in different elements of the Muslim community in Canada, alhamdulillah, inshallah.
MashaAllah. So you painted a very vivid picture here. Now, I'm curious as well to know, just to really hammer this point home, and just so we're really going to dig deeper into the root causes of certain things. What are some common objections of, let's say, folks who are giving? Like, you already talked about,
right?
You already talked about, let's just say, the fact of the matter is the cost of living is just higher. So some people aren't in a position to give. Okay, that's one reason. Another reason could be, you mentioned that institutions are the way to go. Oh, just donate it to a big charity and let them take care of it, or this, that, and the other. So what are some other big foundational barriers overall? Let's just say, because let's say the Muslims in Canada or in the area, just go in the GTA. What do you commonly hear folks that when you say, hey, look, we have this food drive coming up, we have this homeless shelter initiative, or something of that nature? What are some common things that you hear over and over and over again, predominantly in your experience?
And my experience, to be honest, and this is building off of what I said, whenever the Muslims in Canada, whenever they believe that something is being genuinely done, I find that there's no real objections. Like the people, either they can support it, which they do in large droves, or if they can't support it for financial reasons, they don't do so, and they'll make it known to you. Like, I have brothers that tell me, brother, like, this month it's not easy, and I'm like, it's okay, man. The intention is there. Other people will be like, other people just won't say anything. They might just leave the group chat, and that if you want to talk about if there was ever any type of obstacle for those type of people, it's just shaitan, because if you have that veil over your heart, it's going to be hard for you to see any opportunity to do good. And for some people, and this is when we get into the spiritual and the religious aspect of it, is that the what they've been earning prevents them from being able to, spend it on good.
Okay. Stop. Forgive me for interrupting. I got to stop right there for a moment. Like, unpack that. Like, that's a big one right there. You just hit a gold mine right there.
In the sense of, alhamdulillah, people are working hard and they're doing their money. But I remember we had a situation in the summertime. This is very interesting. A brother approached me and he said that somebody wants to talk to you, and about donating and collaborating. And I said, okay, who is it? So he sent me the number of a brother, and the brother, I knew him. He was someone that was struggling with, these certain facets of life, but he was trying to improve himself. But he had been involved in a certain type of lifestyle. And then he told me that it wasn't on his behalf, but it was a brother that was very well known in the city for, let's be honest, for violence, for perpetuating violence and perpetuating this evil gang culture that we're in. But the brother was prepared to, and the brother was the ultimate end objective brother, was prepared to give a lot of money and do all this in order to collaborate with us and this and that. And I thought about it, and then my partner, alhamdulillah, he's Dhul Hikmah. He's a person that possesses a lot of wisdom. May Allah bless him. He said, I'm going to do istikhara. 2 days later, he says, you know what, we shouldn't do it. And I'm like, okay, you're right. 2 days later, he tells me, I never did istikhara. I just knew that you were tripping. And I thought about it. I had a conversation with another brother. He said, you know what, Sheikh? The brother, look how he's prevented from doing good by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because what his actions have been so far is to make people cry. So I say that to say that we are prevented by good. I was reciting the Quran yesterday, not to show off my actions, But when I was reciting it, I said, this is easier than it was before. And I said, perhaps the burden of some type of sin has been carried off to where it's easier now. And I said, there are people that want to be involved in good, but there's no good that they're able to do because some of the sins that they're carrying are massive. You know, and that's obviously not applicable to the entire Muslim community and the GTA, but it's a specific subsection. But I say all that to say that, as you know, what people earn can affect their heart. And once their heart is affected, what they see is affected. You understand? How they see things and how they perceive things, how they perceive good. You know, and the avenues for them to commit good are also affected because of the nature of what they're doing. So that's a specific point. I'm not talking about people doing riba and all that type of stuff. That's a different category that I don't have experience in to speak about. I can speak to a certain aspect of Toronto street subculture and the Toronto youth culture. And I'm just noting that was an instance that was really striking to me, you know, because I saw for the first time that, not for the first time, but I saw the effect spiritually and religiously and morally that the actions that these people are engaged in are having on their future. You understand? But alhamdulillah, inshallah, may Allah grant them tawfiq and success and hidayah, you know?
MashaAllah, man, I gotta take that moment to pause because I think subhanAllah, man, Sheikh, you really hit on something. I think that's really rude. I think that when you articulate it in that way, there is a connection between your earning and the way you're doing it versus your giving. There is that connection. SubhanAllah, maybe people might not think of it. I'm not calling anyone out. It's a reflection for myself and for us all. It's a humble reminder that SubhanAllah, at the end of the day, whatever you're given is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the way that we're giving it, like we've been given, let's just say you have, okay, you mentioned riba as an example, you know, across the board, you know, it's, of course, there's nuances and there's certain scholarly discussion. We can't go into that. Right, however, exactly. if you know something clearly, like, you know, I mean, just blatantly, not like gray area. I mean, clearly this area is like off limits. It doesn't matter if you were elementary, basic understanding of Islam. This area is not going to happen. But if that's the main source, it affects you. Like it affects all areas of your life. So let's just say, okay, let's now taking that into account and how, okay, what you're taking reflects what you're giving. Okay, you try to, let's say you want to convince, not necessarily convince, but appeal to the heart, appeal to the brother. MashaAllah, Islam Feeds communities is much more than just, oh, here's a bag of Doritos or what have you. Again, it's not just that. It's or here's this bag of rice and here you go. It's just because then again, the problems perpetuate the next day because then 24 hours, your stomach's still crying for more. What's the main, I guess, message or thing you want to cultivate in terms of food is one thing, but there's something more than that. Like what's that main?
For me, Muhammad Maxwell, and you know me very well. You know, you're in my Deen chat. For me, it's to cultivate first in myself and those that are around me that wallahi Allahul Haqqul Mubin, that Allah is a apparent and manifest reality, and that Muhammad is as-sadiqu al-masduq, that he is the ultimate teller of the truth, the ultimate person to be relied on. And what I mean by that is that everything that he came with is true, and that he has provided and he has directed us towards avenues by which the heart can be cleaned, by which the diseases of the heart, starting from the recitation of the Quran itself, will be removed from the people. And that's what I think is not appreciated. Charity is the first means by which you can convince Muslims that this religion is haqq. Because charity, if someone has a basis of tawheed, it can be a way for him to expiate his sins. When his sins are expiated, inshallah, his heart is lighter. Those black spots, they disappear, and he's able to obtain a greater share of good than he might have been able to do. Right. This is why frequently, for example, on Fridays, on the if communities, I like to post, a salawat, salatul Ibrahimiyya, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita, the salatul Ibrahimiyya that we all know and recite in salah. And then I'll post hadiths where the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's encouraging people to do this. And I'll post something that the scholars might have said with respects to, this will have this benefit, right? As far as purifying the heart, for having your sins forgiven and creating ease in your affairs. So there's something that people can concretely do. So you give the charity, then you concretely increase in salawat. Then and this is obviously, you're going to pray and all that type of stuff. You're going to pray. So I really, really, really want people, this is not a feel-good project. it's a feel-good project in the sense that, you know, sometimes I get overwhelmed by just how hard people have it in this life. That's why I mentioned the Africa thing at the beginning. It's overwhelming how much difficulties people are going through. You understand? But I want people to understand, as people that are generally fortunate as far as our physical condition is concerned, that we have a golden opportunity to use the alat, to use the tools that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us in terms of ibadat, in terms of athkar, in terms of awrad, in terms of charity, to really and truly get closer to him. You know, because I look and it's a generation of people that are going through, that are trading, as I said one time, gold for dust. You know, in every avenue you can see different struggles the shaitan is trying to grab people. You have one person that's a Muslim, but he's killed 5 Muslims. You have one girl that's a Muslim, but she's fornicated more often than a prostitute. Astaghfirullah. You have another person that's a Muslim, but you know, he does everything according to the whims of the society that's around him. You know, you have another person that when you read the Quran to him, or when he hears the Quran, he gets uncomfortable, even though he's a Muslim. All of these things are realities that are going on with us. So the purpose of Islam feeds communities within the broader context of developing that Islamic ethos is to allow people to have a starting point towards seeing the good. So maybe they follow the Instagram page, they see what we do on a monthly basis. Then they catch a post, you know, about a raqiq, like a heart warmer. You got what I'm saying to you? Maybe they catch, you know, maybe it's something that makes them want to go pray. Me, I really just want to cultivate Islamic people because I love the deen. It's what changed me. And it's something that I have experiences, some I can talk about, some that I cannot talk about, that have convinced me of its truth. You know, and there was a time before when I used to convey that message with passion, but without wisdom, you know. And those who loved me, those who knew my heart, they stayed to benefit from that. But those who didn't know me, or those who didn't know my heart, they simply ran away, or they might have become reluctant to me, or they might have become averse to the message that I was giving. You know, and so as I've gotten older myself, there's been an element of trying to cultivate wisdom and ilm in the way that I deliver what I deliver. And Islam Feast Communities obviously is a good way to do that, in my opinion.
MashaAllah, man, MashaAllah. So it sounds like, again, so Islam is the truth. You want to make it like a magnet that will attract the folks. And it also sounds like you've really taken upon this attitude of, you know, the more you take, the less you have. You know, the whole gold to dust analogy. Sometimes we take the wrong things and it really, really infiltrates our soul, and we don't even recognize it. So, subhanAllah, I mean, there's so much more that we can talk about, Sheikh, but unfortunately time isn't on our side. However, I'd be remiss if we didn't put a nice bow tie on this conversation. Okay. Number one, by saying, like, it's a nice little segue to saying, you have somebody who, let's just say, isn't on board. They haven't seen the light, so to speak. They haven't seen what you see. You speak with so much conviction. Look, you give. Charity is that vehicle that you will get to getting that peace and solitude. What would be your practical how-tos for someone who, let's just say, is watching this and saying, man, Sheikh, that sounds great, but, you know, I mean, I'm just not there yet. And then how can people find Islam Find Community? Islam finds community. Yeah, Islam finds communities, and you feed communities. You know, you find the right community, you feed community. So I like that. What will be your advice, and how can people find you?
So let me get rid of the second question first, since it's the lighter one. Just if you want to follow Islam Feast Communities, it's at if communities, and it's very easy. You know, if communities follow us. Every month on the 7th, we post a reminder to donate. And on the 14th, we post a reminder that the date is over. 21st, or on the 21st, third Saturday of the month, we go and do the stuff and we post the updates, right? As far as my advice, wallahi, this sounds somewhat harsh. Not harsh, but it's the truth. It's by degrees, depending on the closeness of that person to me. The first thing is to resign myself to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, you do not guide who you desire, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides who he wills. The hidayah ultimately is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I cannot make anyone believe, and trust me, I've tried. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says I believe in Surah and Yunus, you know, or either Surah Yunus or Surah Hud. You know, would you force he said, had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed, he would have made everyone on the earth believers, jami'an, all of them, you know? So then would you force the people so that they become Muslim, so they become mu'mins? You can't do that. But in terms of practicality, to the degree that I have to interact with that person, is just akhlaq. Beautify your character for the people. Because we're not in the age of the Sahaba. We're not in the age of Tabi'een and the Tabi'een and the Tabi'een. We're in the age of the Khalifs, the age of kings, where they went on physical conflicts for the sake of Islam. This is a historical reality, where they literally established the boundaries of Islam that we have today. We're not in that age. This is an age, after all, this is an age of akhlaq. This is what I would call the Meccan age revisited. Not in the sense of being persecuted, but in the sense of it's the fundamental elements of tawheed and good akhlaq that can attract the people that's meant to be attracted. So I have family members, for example, I get disappointed they don't pray. But I told myself I'm just going to try to do good to them, have good akhlaq with them, and inshallah, hopefully they're guided. If Allah wills that they be guided, they'll be guided. But we'll simply do our deed, wasjudu, waqtarib, prostrate and draw near. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to prostrate, I'm going to draw near, and I'm going to invite other people to do the same if they want to hear it. If not, salamu alaikum. I turn away from the ignorant and go by my way.
MashaAllah. And with that, Islam started as something strange and it's going to return as something strange. SubhanAllah. So MashaAllah. Sheikh, it's been phenomenal. Always a pleasure having these kind of conversations. May Allah put more and more barakah in Islam feeds communities, and that you'll be able to feed maybe the entire world. Why not? I know it's a high goal, but you know what? It's something to go for, right?
Inshallah. So thank you, and give my salam to the Sheikh as well. I appreciate everything that you're doing for us.
All right, stay tuned, everyone. Muslim Do next week. Until next time, barakallahu feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.